Hey, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the live trading session with myself, Giles Coxon. Hope everybody's well. Looking forward to today's session. Let's get on top of it. A few things to go through. What a week, eh? What a week in the markets. I tell you, if you can manage weeks like this and you're managing your risk, you're doing fantastic. The moves we've been having this week are just phenomenal. How we're doing, and then we'll get stuck into the session. We had the PPI print, which is very low as well. Very interesting, given that Truflation index. In fact, just while we're here, you know, if you remember that Truflation index that I've been looking at a few times, this is meant to be a more accurate picture of inflation because it's based on live prices and it's based on millions of live prices. And that's what the company tout this inflation as being a much more accurate and up-to-date reflection of inflation in the US, moving sharply lower. And just interesting because we've been seeing that, haven't we, with the latest data out. PPI, look, all of it below market's minimum expectations except the core, but the core was in line with the lows, dropping. Remember the CPI yesterday? Look, below market's minimum expectations. All right, so core underneath 3%, good. That's giving the Fed a bit of space. So that's excellent. And we're waiting to see what the latest PCE print is going to be. In fact, let me just check that out. That'll be interesting to see because the PCE is the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. And you can work out some of the components. People work out the components from the PPI and the CPI. Oh, I can't see it at the moment. Let me just look. PCE, just having a little look on Twitter. And the expectation is it's going to be lower across the board, particularly airline, passenger services, huge drop for March. So just helpful for you to see here. These are the components for March producer prices report that feed into the PCE print. And look, it's lower across the board. Airline, lower. Portfolio, lower. Physician care, lower. Home health, lower. Hospital outpatient care, lower. Inpatient, lower. Nursing home care, slightly higher. But lower pretty much across the board. That just puts the pressure off the Fed. Now, we saw the reaction in the market, which was a move up, instantly higher, which is what you'd expect. Why? Because if inflation is softer, then that should be supporting upside in stocks because the Fed will be more likely to cut interest rates. But remember, it's tariff concerns that are the big thing. So it wasn't one to chase. Could have had a little opportunity here. I don't know if anyone took it. Pushed above the high, pulled back to those sellers, and then carried on. So there was a little move there. And trapping sellers here, right? Moving higher, trapping sellers there, moving higher. And there was this little opportunity here. Possible for a very short-term scalping opportunity. But like yesterday with the soft CPI, we saw price move up and then it moved down. Why? Because it's tariff concerns, growth concerns. That's what's really weighing on markets right now. Short-term interest rate markets, right? You can see here, hardly any reaction to it, right? So not a big move here. That's 4 minutes ago. Yeah, so not a big reaction in the short-term interest rate markets. But it's tariff concerns that are weighing on things at the moment. And the Fed's expected to hold on the 7th of May meeting. So no big change, but still we've seen a rapid repricing and interest rate cuts now expected. 4 interest rate cuts now expected this year, pretty much, just under 4. Looking at the major macro data, the big news is that China has retaliated with additional tariffs, taking up to, 100 and whatever percent it is. Let me just double check that. Funny, really. Raise additional tariff to US goods to 125% from 84%. So this was around earlier in the session, and we saw tariff announcements by China, and that was here at the 9 a.m. candle, and the additional tariffs. But then they also said, right, here you go, here's the drop. It was just this here. They also said, well, they won't be doing any further tariffs if the US responds to it, because they said already that's priced out US goods from Chinese consumers. In other words, they're not playing the tariff game anymore, which kind of makes sense because it's a bit ridiculous, really. 100%. It feels like two toddlers in the playground saying, my dad's 100% bigger than your dad, or someone goes, no, my dad's 2,000% stronger than yours. No, well, my dad's,
on Yahoo Finance saying her outlook for this year is high inflation, slower growth.
360,000%. It's stopping those kinds of games. Market relieved that there's a pause on tariffs, but still not liking these tariffs. This is a really key area here that we're just coming through. I'll keep an eye on that on the 5 minute. You got this big area here that's just selling off. Hey, Mark Anthony, good to see you. Right, I wonder if that's a headline. We're getting a bit of movement here. Hey, good to see you, Mark Anthony. Right, just hang on. Let's see what this is.
And more from Feds Collins notes that we came into the first quarter with solid economic conditions. Says the markets continue to function well.
That's heavy selling. Now this area is very important because it's this 1 hour chart here. You see we have buyers trapping those sellers here, and then you've got buyers coming up, and then these are buyers getting trapped now at the 5290 at the top of the weekly value area high. So huge area that's getting trapped now.
Says it will push up inflation pressures.
Right, huge area getting trapped. On the 15.
More from JP Morgan, it says sticky inflation is not going to go away. Meanwhile, Fed Collins says the tariff announcements are very significant.
Now this is I'm going to use the ellipse here. This is a very important selling area here, right? Because these sellers now are trapping those buyers. So this is a very important area to look for potential shorting opportunities. That's what we're looking for. Price moving lower. Inventory is turning lower now from the Globex
the China trade
open.
Issues.
We've got big areas coming up here, here, here.
And Collins points out hard to invest in times of big uncertainty.
Right. So on the weekly chart, we're
back to JP Morgan CEO says there will be a kerfuffle in the treasury market because of all the rules and regulations.
We're here, the top of this value area. So if we start to go back underneath this area, then that opens up a move down to the 5206. So big area that we're coming into at the open. You can see that the markets have remained within yesterday's value area. So we're in a kind of range bound, and we're playing the range at the moment. Value area from yesterday here, and value area from yesterday up here, which we played into, sold through, played into, sold through, and then we've played here and we've bought up. So we're sort of in this range, and that's what we should expect. Coming up to a 15-minute close. See the delta is building, has now gone negative, and we're just cutting through all these areas here. Buyers getting trapped. Pull back to this area is a great opportunity for shorting. So we're looking for 1 minute, 5 minute people getting short there. As long as we close underneath this area here.
We did say earlier, it's for slower growth, not a downturn.
That's the first opportunity to be looking at. And if price moves higher, where can we get up to? Daily VWAP. Daily VWAP would be an obvious area to short from.
Feds Collins says the financial market movements they're focusing on.
Headline driven trade. That's what we're looking for. And that's what we'll be aware of. I took a few trades this morning, just small moves on the China news.
Will not rule out a downturn.
Earnings are ahead. So in terms of earnings, got some big bank names, but they're all coming. Most of them have come. Right. BlackRock, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, BNY, Wells Fargo. So a lot of banks announcing their earnings today. And in terms of the calendar, we've had the PPI print. We've got Fed's Williams speaking at 4. And we've got White House press briefing at 6. And you've got the University of Michigan sentiment print coming at 3. Now, the other thing to be aware of is equity markets had that big surge on the tariff pause. But now we're finding a bit of a pause. Look here on the daily chart. You can see we've moved into this area where these sellers were trapped. Buyers trapped sellers, and now we're trying to push lower again. Okay, so a big, very important area here on the daily chart. You can push above that too.
As Colin says, hard to say when tariffs will impact inflation.
On the hourly chart, we've got this big area here underneath the 5291. This is the value area high for the week. So underneath there, then it opens up a potential selling bias. But just see for now, you've got those trapped sellers. So this is not a bad area for potentially looking for buyers either. So a little bit of a two-way action that you could potentially look for. The
Feds Collins says would expect inflation well over 3% this year due to tariffs.
The inflationary narrative is really boosting precious metal.
Central banker Dabrowski says it has become more likely that rates will be cut by July. It is not uncertain.
If you look at silver and that gold-silver ratio, that gold-silver ratio is now over 100. That is hugely important. Okay, if you look at the gold-silver ratio, the last time it was over 100 was here, and look at the rally we saw in silver. It moved from $11 up to $30. It tripled in value, right? And the gold-silver ratio was also above 100 here, right back in 1991, and silver did eventually move higher. It took a while, but you can see here when the gold-silver ratio was again above 100. Look at that price rise in silver here. Look at that move there. In 2008, 2000, look at that run, right? We are right back there. So I do like silver. I think it's really, really attractive for sort of a structural long-term.
That could still be appropriate to begin normalizing by the end of the year.
And if you look at, remember this is there's a lot of stagflation fears that are just brewing. And you look here at this move with the, so that 50%, when you have a sell candle like this.
But Fed's Colin knows that at this point, expectation is Fed will need to hold steady for longer.
When you have it opening below the low again on the next week, if you have a close above the 50% mark of that previous candle, that's called a bullish piercing line pattern, and it's a very bullish pattern. So that's trying to set up a very bullish potential reversal. You need to get the close above 50% to really see that upside, but that's what you're looking for. Okay? So keep an eye on that for silver. Otherwise, VIX into that 40 region, and of course, rising VIX is a falling S&P 500. So you can see that rising VIX is pressurizing the S&P 500. NASDAQ just capped by that daily pivot point, and S&P 500 capped by that daily pivot point, and the really two-way action. And noticing that weekly value area that we're just trying to push under as we're heading into the open. So really looking like it wants to move lower. We've identified an area for shorting, which is if we move up into this area here, 5,300. So move back up to there. You've got those buyers being trapped. It's a very nice potential area, right, for shorts, should we get it. I think that's it, folks. That's the main area on my target. And then obviously if we break down through these areas, then it'll be further opportunities for selling. Have another look here on the weekly chart. Right, there we go. This is a tricky area because it's kind of like the value area high, so it could be support, breakthrough, then it's resistance. So we've got to be aware of two-way action. You look at those buyers who are here. At the moment, they're still okay. And you've got buyers here that are kind of okay. So sellers that are trapped there, this is not a bad area to look for potential longs or shorts. So we can look for two-way action here. It really is two-way. Oh, hey, Brian. No worries, good to see you, mate. Long story short, tariff-driven headline news trading again. PPI was below market's expectations. The PCE is expected to fall for the next reading, the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. We've had a few earnings reports out, nothing worrying markets much. And then we're just looking at this key area here for potential shorts at the 5,300, but also being aware that that area could also be quite good for potential longs on the weekly chart at the value area high. So a bit of two-way flexibility needed here.
It's making you aware US President Trump on Truth Social says we are doing really well on our tariff policy. Very exciting for America and the world. It is moving along quickly.
Trump trying to persuade us that tariffs are good. He's going to have a tough job at the moment. I did see that Trump's positive rating has massively fallen after this tariffs scenario. Really, like I think he had a 14-point fall in popularity polls in the US. And apparently that can take a long time to have that 14-point drop. And he had it in a matter of just a few weeks after his inauguration. So he's struggling now. He's got to try to win people's confidence back. Hence that reversal of the 90-day tariffs. Right, I've closed them out. Just want to get a quick profit off that. Right, let's have a look now. It's exceptionally weak. Now, the point of control's now moved. Right? I'm just sold off those as we pull back to those trap buyers up here, took another sell. And now I'm just want to quickly get my bearings. What's going on here? What are we doing in terms of price? See, we've got some trap sellers down here, so it's a bit mixed. Point of control, weekly point of control is there. This is very weak, right? This is very weak sentiment, terrible. Inflation super hot. It's just, I wouldn't be surprised if gold just goes up and up and up on that. Just really tough to get a report like that, very negative. So took a quick sell. You can see just a quick couple of sells out of that. Now we're carrying on our way down. So back through those. So this is definitely a sell bias has opened up after this event. Right, definitely. So what have we got? Right, have you got any potential? So here on the 1 minute, right, should get a sell from up at that point of control. Right, took another quick sell against that. I'm just holding on for this. A lot of delta coming in positively, and I can't think why. I'm just going to hold fire and just get a bit back on this.
Seeing further commentary from Wells Fargo CEO says consumers have remained resilient.
Right, just closing that out. Let's have another look at this. There was obviously that. This is negative data.
And further on, the Wells Fargo CEO says more affluent customers
that's
continue to show
clearly
strength.
buying and rejecting those sellers. So we've got to see what we can see. It's strange. Looking at on the hourly, let's just see. That's such negative data. Pushing over the point of control on the weekly. Let's have a look at the inventory. Inventory is negative, so I still don't mind looking for sellers here. Just maybe look for slightly better prices. Where's the buyers? Where are buyers trapped? Buyers trapped up here. Buyers starting to build. Right. Okay, just got to trade what you see. So that's all that you can do. And those here getting trapped. Sellers trapped, and away it went. Right. Fair enough. Let's see. Now we've got buyers trapping those sellers. So it's wanting to go higher. I've just got to watch it. Just got to accept what we see. Days finished. Here we are, April the 11th. So days finished plus $546 on the day. The week is plus $1,279 across the live accounts. And that takes the monthly up to 2,987. So pleased to put in a solid week, particularly after that losing day on the April the 9th. And what was interesting there was the, if you look my journal for that day, not for that day, but just look at the...
Just making you aware of the latest S&P data, US government 6-month.
If you look at the Friday, you know, what was the worst? The worst trade of the week, as I review the week, was that day when I lost the $600 in that one account because I opened multiple positions because I thought it was multiple trade copier, but it wasn't. All the positions just went onto one account, and then instead of closing out straight away, I tried to ride it out and it rode against me. So that was my biggest error of the week. The best trades of the week were continue to take trap buyers and sellers against the point of control. Very nice, can easily limit your risk there. So that remains the best trades that I've got. It's when you've got trap buyers and sellers and that extra level point of control, great area. My most common mistake this week was not taking profit at better levels. So taking profit too emotionally because you're just in profit and thinking, okay, I'll take it. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. But when I was doing that, and clearly you could see this is clearly heading lower and you're expecting it to head lower, that's obviously a mistake. Right? And you know, you may be giving away 10, 15, 20 points in this market. My weekly goals from last Friday, I had 3 weekly goals. Was one to take, hang on, what's all this? One was to take profit based on market conditions, not on feelings, to improve on that, to make progress. I didn't make progress on that this week. To increase my P&L by 15% from last week, right? I achieved that. So that's good. Had a better week, increased the P&L, so that's goal achieved for last week. Excellent. And then to make sure my worst trade of next week is better than the worst one this week. Now, that was not, I didn't manage to improve on that. I did an even worse trade by opening multiple positions on one account, and it had an even greater loss. So, room for improvement. So what I'm going to do is this week, rather than having that general goal, I've made the goal more specific. I want to try and take 2 trades where I take profit based on market conditions, not on feelings of urgency. So it might be too much to suddenly change your behavior completely. So let's see if I can do it once or twice. So I'm going to aim for twice next week. I want to be in trades and thinking I can hold this deliberately, and then just, you know, even if it's just trailing behind the 1 minute candle, that's fine. Then secondly, if I enter multiple trades in one account, my mistake to exit immediately. And that is just a rule. So instigate that. Multiple trades, fine. Exit immediately, fine. Just get on with it. Take the loss, don't try and ride it out. And then thirdly, to limit my maximum loss in a single trade to sub $260. They're my 3 goals for next week. So just want to make sure I'm not allowing that loss to creep up. Biggest loss this week was $600 on that multiple trade. And obviously that would have been very handy to have been able to add $600 to the weekly return, right? And not only, with it as a loss, I was about $1,500 up at one stage on this day. And a similar thing happened on April the 8th as well. So I'm hoping, Anthony, by just having these goals, then that'll be the right thing. Thanks, Mauricio. I'm happy. It's steady, it's making progress. And importantly, it's keeping this drawdown high. That's what I want. Keep that. That's up at 2,300. 2,300, and then just try and get over that 52,600, and then I can build that up. That's the plan, and then I'll stop worrying about that drawdown. It sort of weighs on me mentally just knowing it's there like that. Okay, folks, see that range carrying on. In fact, just interesting to see we're pushing above that point of control. I'm going to call that a day for me. If we do see those buyers trap sort of these sellers against this area here, then I'd expect the bounce and potentially move higher. But I agree, Anthony. And particularly if you're well up and then you let it go against you, it's really annoying. So I've got to manage, just keep taking the profit. Right, Anthony, I totally get it. Yeah, it's tricky. You can all think you're going great, and then all of a sudden you let that go against you, and you've lost it all. Or you're suddenly, you've got 1,500 and drawdown, and your anxiety levels can begin to build. So that's certainly with me anyway. All right, folks, hope you've all had good trading weeks. And I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you all have a lovely weekend. Take care now, folks. Bye for now.